We're gonna fly to school each morning. We're gonna smile the entire time.
We're gonna be more happy. We're gonna finally be.
This is Mac OS Ken.
iPhone weights and charging rates. The Cupertino company asked to end its Fortnite fight, and Apple helps during and after Hurricane Helene. It is Tuesday, the 1st of October, 2024. I'm Ken Ray, and this is news from Mac OS Ken, brought to you by yours truly and sponsored by 1Password Extended Access Management, your solution for MDM and identity and access management. Learn more at onepassword.com/macosken. This show is also supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/macosken. How are iPhone wait times looking? A new note from Morgan Stanley analyst Eric Woodring almost has me wanting to say, iPhone wait times are looking however you want them to look. Apple 3.0 ran part of a note from the analyst on Monday. While wait times for iPhone 16 are shorter than wait times for corresponding iPhone 15 models were this time last year, the analyst says lead times for the 16 Pro Max models are now extending/stabilizing across all regions tracked by the firm. This he calls an unexpectedly positive development. That said, there are many factors on which he is keeping an eye to gauge the strength of the iPhone 16 product cycle. Those include iPhone shipment lead time dynamics, Taiwanese monthly sales commentary, iPhone original design manufacturer build forecasts, which should be updated in the middle of this month, and feedback on Apple Intelligence after it is officially rolled out. Between here and all of those data points, the firm still expects iPhone shipments for fiscal year 25 to be up about 4% year on year. They're currently looking for stronger growth of 12% for next year's iPhone 17 line, given broader availability of Apple Intelligence with more features and language support globally. Mr. Woodring has an overweight rating on Apple shares. He has set Morgan Stanley's price target on the shares at $273. Rumors of 45-watt fast charging for the iPhone 16 line appear to have either been mistakes or exaggerations. I told you a couple of weeks ago of notes from a Chinese regulatory agency that showed 45-watt wired fast charging for all 4 of Apple's fall 2024 phones. Turns out that regulator was only off by about 4. According to the report, Charger Lab saw a peak charging speed of 37 watts for iPhone 16 Pro Max with one of Apple's chargers, though the lab could only achieve a maximum sustained charging speed of around 30 watts. Phone Arena tested charging on iPhone 16. While it was able to hit a peak charging speed of 38 watts, a sustained charging speed of around 20 watts was the norm. While that might sound disappointing compared to the report out of the Middle Kingdom, there are a couple of points worth noting. First, the Mac Rumors piece says the sustained charging speed seen by Charger Lab for the iPhone 16 Pro Max was a little faster than that for last year's iPhone 15 Pro Max. And second, Apple never said it was faster. According to the report, Apple merely says that all iPhone 16 models can achieve up to a 50% charge in around 30 minutes with a 20-watt or higher USB-C charger, which is exactly the same claim it advertised for all of the iPhone 15 line. It looks like Apple won't be in on OpenAI's next investment round. The Wall Street Journal ran a piece last week saying that the Cupertino company is no longer in talks to participate in an OpenAI funding round expected to raise as much as $6.5 billion. Somebody on Mastodon, I think it was, said the whole Apple OpenAI thing is kind of funny. Apple says it's adding ChatGPT to iOS, and Apple stock goes up. Then Apple says it is not investing in ChatGPT, and Apple stock goes up. Kinda funny, but it also totally makes sense. Assuming that was the only thing that moved Apple stock on Monday, and there is no way that that's the case, but assuming that that was the only thing that moved Apple stock on Monday, it is one of the things that investors like most about Apple, its ability to benefit from the investments of others without having to throw a huge amount of money in itself. Nice work if you can get it. Remember the thing where Apple wanted more time to go over documents it was supposed to turn over in its seemingly endless case against Epic Games? Well, never mind. A piece from Apple Insider says the Cupertino company is asked to have the whole case tossed instead. Props to the site for boiling the whole thing down, though it is still pretty convoluted. The piece says the case resulted in an injunction forcing Apple to remove its anti-steering rules. Epic was not pleased with Apple's implementation, hence the case continuing. Now, though, the report says Apple has filed for the court to set aside its injunction based on 2 new sets of precedents that didn't exist when the injunction was filed. Parsing the site's parsing, Apple says the case Beverage versus Apple establishes Apple anti-steering rules are not unfair according to the courts in one state. But the piece says it's a ruling by a state government that cannot be contradicted by the federal government, so Apple argues the nationwide injunction needs to go away. As for the other case, Apple Insider says Murphy versus Missouri has to do with plaintiffs claiming the Biden administration pressured social media companies to control misinformation during the COVID-19 pandemic. That's all mostly irrelevant, besides how the court ruled, which says plaintiffs must establish a substantial future risk through evidence. And that is where Apple thinks it has Epic. How can the latter establish the former's anti-steering rules directly affect Epic's business? Epic cannot say for certain that users would spend money with it directly without anti-steering in place. With both cases as precedent, Apple argues that there's ground to throw out the injunction, or at least limit it to only apply to Epic, according to the report. And if you thought this case seemed endless before, it still does. Did you hear that the CEO of Masimo has resigned? Well, he did. 9to5Mac says that resignation may bring blood oxygen sensing back to Apple Watch. Masimo and Apple were locked in legal combat for years over the technology Apple used for its blood oxygen sensing in the wearable. Apple reportedly reached out to Masimo about a collaboration back in 2013. That didn't pan out, though Apple did hire away a lot of Masimo's talent, which brought a lot of Masimo's expertise with them. Lawsuits and a complaint to the U.S. International Trade Commission ensued. While the lawsuit will have to be retried thanks to a hung jury, the piece says the ITC complaint resulted in a compromise in which Apple was ordered to remove the feature from new watches sold in the U.S. from January of this year. It was not required to disable the feature in watches already out there, but it could not include the feature in any new ones. But now the guy who ran point on the issue for Masimo is gone, which may create a way for the feature to return to Apple's wearable. The piece has Bloomberg's Mark Gurman opining on the issue, saying, "I don't believe Apple will want to reach a licensing agreement, but I could imagine a deal, financial or not, that lets the two sides drop all litigation." While such an agreement seems to be mere speculation on the part of both Bloomberg and 9to5Mac, the latter sounds sensible when it points out that a new leader creates an opportunity for a new attitude on the matter. More news in a moment, but first a word from today's sponsor, 1Password Extended Access Management. Have you ever heard the term desire path? Sounds like a romance novel. Isn't, though. Desire path means a footpath made through foliage, grass, etc. by repeated traffic rather than laid out by design. You've probably got those at work. The systems you and your technical people have laid out are there for the safety and security of your business. But your staff may be following a desire path, a quicker, easier way to get their work done. You may applaud their ingenuity, but not the part where they're using unmanaged devices, apps IT doesn't know about, and IDs that should have been deactivated who knows how long ago. 1Password Extended Access Management can help you get a handle on all of that. It puts all those unmanaged devices, unknown applications, and rogue identities under your control, making sure every user credential is strong and protected, every device is known and healthy, and every app is visible. 1Password Extended Access Management solves the problems traditional identity and access management and mobile device management miss. It is security for the way people work today. It's available now to companies with Okta and Microsoft Entra and in beta for Google Workspace customers. Check it out at onepassword.com/macOSken. That is the number 1, onepassword.com/macOSken. Apple has pledged help for the victims of Hurricane Helene, while Apple technology is already helping. 9to5Mac ran a piece Monday on the sanity saver and possible lifesaver that was messages via satellite as the hurricane and its remnants made their way through the southeast, as well as in the storm's aftermath. On Monday, 9to5Mac said many thousands of people are without power and or cell service, but in the wake of the storm, reports have surfaced about a key iOS 18 feature that has been a lifeline for survivors: messages via satellite. One person posted on Twitter, due to the lack of cell service, everyone in Asheville, North Carolina right now on iOS 18 has been able to get messages out and in with the satellite messaging feature. Interestingly, I saw more than one message about Verizon customers being able to text despite yesterday's outage for that carrier as well. Gotta say, messages via satellite could end up being the key feature for iOS 18. At least until Apple Intelligence rolls out. As for help going forward, Apple CEO Tim Cook took to Twitter Monday to acknowledge the situation and pledge support. Quoting his short post, "We're thinking of all of those facing the catastrophic aftermath of Hurricane Helene. Apple will be making a donation to help with relief efforts on the ground." The long good night for Beddit continues. A piece from iDownload blog says the Cupertino company has removed the supporting iPhone apps for the Beddit sleep monitor accessory that it acquired back in 2017, but no longer sells. It's unclear whether the app continues to work for folks who have it installed. It seems likely it does, though. Apple only stopped selling the sleep monitor in 2022. And finally today, not much of a story on this one, but I really dig the synchronicity. I mentioned Monday that I was on my umpteenth rewatch of the comedy series Community. Well, get this. Joel McHale, Community's own Jeff Winger, has apparently lost his Apple Watch. According to a piece from Apple Insider, McHale's pretty sure he left it on an airplane, prompting a lot of people to ask, why did he take it off on an airplane? Posting on Instagram, the actor and show host rode an extremely pleasant JetBlue flight from LAX to Newark Airport and left my Apple Watch on board. My scatterbrainedness causes me to leave things all over this planet. That said, when I did a Find My for the device, it somehow made it to a residential part of Newark, New Jersey. To the person that has it, I'll give you 3 guesses on the passcode, and then if you're slightly close, it's yours. I mean, it's clearly yours now, but it's a fun game. Enjoy. Apple Insider says the watch won't be of much use to whomever it is that has it now, since it would need to be unpaired from Mikhail's iPhone. As I say, not much of a story, but we were just talking about community yesterday. Well, I were. As you were. macOS Ken, brought to you by me, and sponsored by 1Password Extended Access Management. Learn more at onepassword.com/macOSCan. This show is also supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/macOSCan. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media. Online at backbeatmedia.com. You can reach me a couple of ways. info@macoscan.com or call 716-780-4080. Until next time, that is news from macOS Ken. I'm Ken Ray.
Troy and Abed in the